It is my firm and considered belief that after having observed the events of the last 6 to 8 years, that military intelligence has taken over completely the reins of power in Washington, D.C. The military apparatus, right alongside the civilian apparatus, now holds all the cards. They are moving the levers of power. There is no doubt in my mind that everything we are seeing right now is a product of the intelligence community. It wasn't so very long ago, back in, say, 2015 or 16, a huge portion of our country was very, very distrustful of government or things that they saw in the media, no matter who reported it, the left or the right. This is the character Eric Broussard, played by the actor Tory Kittles, from the series Colony, who said men who trust power tend to have short life expectancies. Folks, right now, everything we're seeing is theater. And the theater has a purpose. It's to keep everyone happy, everyone emotional, or, on the other side, everyone so blinded with rage and anger that they can't see the way forward. We're going to get into this, and we're going to drop a brand new video here next 24 to 48 hours talking about this specifically over at the Florida Maquis Patreon channel in a way that we're not allowed to talk about it here at YouTube. That's another reason, by the way. I firmly believe that all of our elected officials are simply now pawns for the NSA, for all of the different branches of the intelligence community. There is no free will in Washington, D.C. anymore. If you'd like to join us, Florida Maquis Patreon channel, as always, there's 4 levels over there. The next video we're going to put up is going to be for all of the levels. Maquis foot soldiers needing a round table, unit commanders, brigade commanders. Everybody's going to be in the room for this one because it's going to form the basis of a direction that we're going to go with the channel to show that no matter what you believe right now, it's a product of emotion. Case in point, Mr. Trump has come out multiple times and said, as long as I'm president, America will never be a socialist country. Now, that's a wonderful talking point, even though in multiple ways he has demonstrated a very socialist tack, socialist direction, namely the tariffs. Go look up the profit margins of all of the major grocery chains right now. While Americans are struggling just to put food on the table, just to make ends meet, they are making record profits. Not record revenue, record profits. And nobody is saying, hey, you know what? We should rein this in. Or we should at least develop some type of a low-cost, maybe government-subsidized alternative that people who aren't making it can go to if they're having a rough month. You know, maybe they can go to this aisle or two of the store that's out there, or maybe in another entire store completely, just to go get the basics for a very, very low cost. Instead of just handing out EBT cards and just letting people buy anything for free. I know a lot of people would look at this and probably not agree with it, but folks, we are very close to this. Jumping right from what some people have described as crony capitalism right into fascist communism. That's where we're going. See, the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, that's what the USSR stood for, was not the same as Russia. You see, they had the same basic idea as the United States did. They just took a different tack on it. In fact, capitalism didn't really come to rise in this country until about the 1900s. And the first thing that happened immediately was it collapsed the economy, hence the Great Depression. And then the wars came. And then after the wars, we financially took over the world with the Bretton Woods Agreement and established ourselves as the world's reserve currency, giving us the ability to print money to the tune of now, 37 trillion? Now, here's where PSYOPs comes in on this. Everybody right now who looks at this video and says, oh, Florida Maki, you're going after President Trump again. Can you imagine what would? Can you imagine if she had, it was, oh my gosh, it would have been, think about that for a minute. Think about that logic for a minute. Okay? The reason I know that this is bunk, it's a bunk emotional response, is because we had 4 years of Biden and we had 4 years of Harris, largely influenced by Barack Obama. People at that time reverted to having a very, very healthy, skeptical attitude and distrust of the government, of the federal government, because of primarily who was in charge. You see, that's a good thing. That is a great thing, actually, that we look at our federal government as the states, especially here in Florida, with a very disdainful, distrustful eye. You see, that's all gone away now, hasn't it? This is what has been achieved in America by military intelligence. It's a very simple cartoon layout where we have, in this particular iteration of this, what looks like two different countries, say Britain and France. Basically, this is Democrats and Republicans right now. No matter what side you're on, the other side has, every level has a negative connotation to it. This level of division has now been solidified between the left and the right, whereas before, under Biden and Harris, it was between those who didn't trust government and those who loved the government. You see, now there's a whole bunch of people out there who love the government, but they hate the guy in charge of it. And that leads us, of course, to what? Appeal to emotion. This is something we've talked about, and people think that I've kind of overblown it. It's really not overblown. In fact, we need more people being woken up to this. There are situations out there that are distressing, but sometimes that distress can cloud the way that we're looking at the facts of a situation. See, like, for example, me showing this picture would, of course, send a whole bunch of people just off the edge and they'd already start typing. But let's read what was said by Adolf Hitler on December 28th, 1938. His definition of, quote-unquote, socialism. A socialist is one who serves the common good without giving up his individuality or personality or the product of his personal efficiency. Our adopted term socialist has nothing to do with Marxian socialism. Marxism is anti-property. True socialism is not. It can't possibly be. Marxism places no value on the individual or individual effort or efficiency. True socialism values the individual and encourages him in individual efficiency while at the same time holding that his interests as an individual must be in consonance with those of the community. All great inventions, discoveries, achievements were first the product of an individual brain. It is charged against me that I am against property, that I am an atheist. Both charges are false. He was not against property. He was not against private property. He was against corporate property. Now, that puts things in a bit of a different light. My particular job in the military many years ago was interrogation, human intelligence, and when I served way back in the late 80s and early 90s, the internet was really not a thing. Signals intelligence was an entirely different vein that had a whole different way of looking at the world. Human intelligence was not quite as cut and dried. You see, when you have someone like this, where you've got them cornered, and you got a bag over their head, and you've got a gun in your hand, and you control everything, one might think, well, you've won. If that person has information you need, you've just created a giant hole for yourself. Because this person who's tied to the chair with a bag over his head, now has an entirely different set of priorities than when he was free. Anyone caught in that position, the only priority would be what? Do or say whatever is necessary to get untied from this chair, the bag off the head, and be let back free. You see, that's a different angle. Nobody's a hero in this situation. And it's never been the case. And here's what I'll leave with on this. I've challenged my audience to maybe not believe what the government and the media is telling you about this guy who allegedly put an end to the life of Charlie Kirk. Am I trying to dismiss the fact that Charlie Kirk's life has been ended? No. It's a horrible thing, especially for his children. But believing what the government tells you right off the bat because Trump is in charge, I guarantee if it was the Biden administration or Kamala Harris and this had all occurred, you wouldn't be believing for 1 minute what they said. And that would be healthy. That would be smart. I really, really don't trust this woman. There's something about this, the way that she's behaved, and I've unfortunately seen a lot, probably more than my share, of women lose their husbands to whatever reason. Something is off. And I would just ask that maybe you don't trust the government just because you happen to have an emotional like of Donald Trump. Some people have 1 second. I would ask that maybe, simply because Dave Rubin supports Donald Trump, that maybe you not give this guy a pass. People who go out and rent the wombs of women, especially gay men, who go out and rent the wombs of women so they can play pretend that they are part of the nuclear family and part of MAGA and part of, the good, decent people of America. Wrong answer. Wrong answer. I guarantee if Dave Rubin was a liberal, if Dave Rubin was a Democrat, people would be screaming about this. But once again, why are we trusting a man? Why are we trusting a man simply because he has said things that have made us, emotionally be attached? If he were a Democrat, you would loathe this simply because of a party change. But what do we know about the Uniparty? What do we know about the Uniparty? It's a game, isn't it? Back and forth and back and forth. But something's changed. People are believing things. I had, let me cover this real quick. Who remembers the big effort, the big push to hate John McCain? Primarily because of his war attitude towards Iran. He was made fun of for singing the Beach Boys tune that was, supposed to be Barbara Ann, the bomb, 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 Iran. But now, this guy, after creating years and years and years and years of hate for this man over that particular thing, now did exactly the same thing and bombed Iran. And some people, I had one person comment that said, boy, I really didn't think that for the idea of putting down gay people that somehow Florida Maquis would lift up and elevate and excuse the world's worst pedophile, Jeffrey Epstein. What I'm saying is not that at all. What I'm saying is, where's the evidence of pedophilia? When you look up what pedophilia is, he's guilty of prostitution for sure. But I've found no evidence of pedophilia. Every picture I've found wouldn't qualify for it for sure. And what I'm asking is that, and this is what I'm humbly asking of my audience, maybe consider the fact that you have been lied to. Because just the accusation of pedophilia alone carries with it a stench that even if the man were alive and could be exonerated of it, he would still carry it for the rest of his life. And if there's an argument for the man arranging his own suicide in prison, this would be it, because he knew the way America works and a lot of the world. He would always have been known as the man who was accused of, even in the best case scenario. And there was never any proof of it. There was a lot of what they call proof surrogate, those of you that are typing. There was a lot of huge allegation, but never any proof. Never any proof of it. Could the government have been lying? Because at the time, there were charges brought against the man for prostitution. Could it be that Smurfette, Holly Hobby, and Rainbow Bright, and Raggedy Ann here were possibly not telling the truth? It is interesting to me, and I'll reiterate this, that the allegation is that there were hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of quote-unquote child victims, and not a single statement from a parent. Not a single statement from a parent. This came into the collective conscious right about the time Trump started to run for president, and it was brought up by Hillary Clinton, who went and dug up Virginia Giuffre, who was living happily in Australia, having married and had a couple of kids. Could the government lie? Could the government be lying to foment a narrative? That is my question to my audience. Could the government be lying to foment a narrative to keep you angry about something? Because truly, everybody has just assumed, because he was accused of it, that it's true. Has anyone apologized for demonizing a man that was a war hero? God rest his soul. He said, we're going to have to deal with Iran the exact way President Trump ended up having to deal with Iran. And when he said it, it was years and years ago. People called him a warmonger. And he was right. There was a time when there were people on the right, conservatives in this country, that would have balked at the idea of a billionaire president from any side. They would have been incredibly distrustful. They would have never, under any circumstances, believed 15, 20 years ago that gay men would be able to just purchase kids. And as far as this Charlie Kirk thing goes, folks, the highest civilian honor that can be awarded, inscribed with a cross, folks, think about it. Think about it for just a minute. Could somebody be appealing to your emotions just to keep things from settling down so that people could really see what the real problem is? The sides have been chosen now. And whoever's not carrying your flag is brutish invaders, backward savages, primitive superstitions, and wicked despots. You see, I'm curious now. Now I'm curious about why the intelligence community did not want to see her continue. Because I truly don't believe in the vote anymore. No, I mean, if anyone does, I mean, it's just, maybe it takes, I don't know how many elections it's been that I've been a part of in my adult life. First, Carter. Going back to Carter was the first one that at least I was conscious of. I'm really wondering. The direction we're heading is not a good one. And I'll ask, maybe I'm wrong. Are you doing better at the grocery store than you were a year ago? Do you think the tariffs are going to make things cheaper? Because this is what it really boils down to. Feeding the family. The basics. But we'll get farther into this over at Patreon. Join us. Love to have you. God bless. Pray for each other. Pray for me. I'll pray for you. Lift each other up. Like, share, subscribe. I'll see you guys next time.